tonight. One person is dead. The alleged killer may soon be roaming the streets free. Why is that? Well, because leaders of the Democratic Party are starting to believe, internalize the belief, act on the belief that illegal aliens have more rights than American citizens. Look at this picture. This is Ivan Zamaripa Castaneda. Look closely. That is, in fact, an Ace of Hearts tattoo on his face. But that's not the problem with this man. The problem is twofold. First, he's an illegal alien. Second, over the weekend in Denver, police say he got drunk and slammed his car into a semi-truck. The truck burst into flames. The driver was burned to death. Rather than stay at the scene, Zamaripa Castaneda fled the scene. He was later arrested. Now he faces charges of vehicular homicide. And then politics got involved, which is why we're bringing this to your attention tonight. Federal authorities have asked Denver to detain this man so he can be arrested on federal charges and deported back to Mexico, where he's from and should be living. But no, they can't. Why? Because Denver is a sanctuary city, and that means that Democratic politicians there are committed to protecting the accused killer, even if it means he'll soon be loose in downtown Denver, and he may be. As soon as he posts a $25,000 bond, he will be free to go until his next court date. That's assuming he bothers to show up in court. And by the way, why would he? He snuck into this country. He's going to go to court? Probably not. When Democrats say they're committed to protecting undocumented immigrants, this is who they're talking about. They believe illegal aliens accused of murder deserve to be protected from you more than you deserve to be protected from them. They care more about Ivan Zamaripa Castaneda than they care about you. They'll ignore and undermine federal law on his behalf. Would they do that for you? I don't think so. Attorney General Jeff Sessions has filed suit to stop insanity like this. The Department of Justice has sued the state of California. It's a sanctuary state that has explicitly announced it will punish citizens there for cooperating with the federal government in the pursuit of enforcing immigration law. Democrats in California are outraged by what the Attorney General has done. They're calling him the real criminal. Watch.
What Jeff Sessions said is simply not true. And I call upon him to apologize to the people of California, to bringing the mendacity of Washington to California and trying to insert discord and division.
How dare you vilify members of our community by trying to frighten the American public into thinking that all undocumented residents are dangerous criminals?
How dare you? This is how the left has begun to think. If you believe accused murderers who shouldn't be in this country ought to go back to their own countries, you're the one who's out of line. If you believe in borders, you're a monster. This isn't your country. It belongs to other people now. That's the message they're sending explicitly. The Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, joins us right now. Mr. Attorney General, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
So this is, I think it's fair to say, an emergency if a city government is making it possible for an accused killer to go free simply because they're morally opposed to federal immigration law. That's setting up a conflict between the state and the federal government. How can this be stopped? What's the next step here?
The American people have got to speak first and foremost to these governmental leaders. It's just unacceptable to take this case in Denver that you just cited, where the individual will be released from jail. Our ICE officers are not going to stop looking for him. They're going to go out to find him. They'll be at greater risk. They'll place people in the community at greater risk to try to make an arrest there when they could have been safely picked up in the custody from the custody of the Denver authorities. So this situation is very, very serious, and it represents a commitment from the hard left, these activist groups, to open borders and non-legal enforcement of immigration. Cannot be the policy of the United States of America.
So some Democratic politicians say the states are not, and I think they're legally correct, are not obligated to carry out federal law. But then others, including the mayor of Oakland, have gone farther and actively tried to subvert federal law, as Mayor Libby Schaaf of Oakland did the other day by warning people that federal agents were coming. Does that constitute obstruction of justice, and should she be prosecuted for that?
We're looking at that. Our fabulous ICE officers and Tom Homan are keeping us posted on what's really happening there. Those kind of things depend on the law and the facts, and we'll evaluate them at the Department of Justice. But yes, this is a radical ideology. It's contrary to the American law. The supreme law of the land is American immigration law, and it must be enforced, else we'll just have open borders, and that cannot be.
Well, we have open borders in effect in a lot of ways. Now we're getting something that looks like insurrection almost. The biggest state saying we're going to actively work to undermine basic federal law. Do you worry that the country won't hang together?
I don't think so. I think this is an extreme act. When I was in California, I heard countless people tell me they were embarrassed and outraged about what was going on. I think these people have just been able to get away with it and not been challenged intellectually as to the meaning of what they're doing, how radical it is, how unacceptable it is, how it places the lives of American police officers and ICE officers at greater risk, as well as our communities at greater risk, because we keep criminals in the country that are due to be deported.
And a columnist, he joins us tonight. Ro, thanks for coming on. So we
My
normally
pleasure.
speak in airy generalizations. Let's talk specifics quickly about what's going on in Denver right now.
Sure.
An illegal alien has been charged with vehicular homicide. The feds say he's broken federal immigration law. We want to take custody of him. And for ideological reasons, the city is saying, no, if he posts 25 grand bail, he's going to walk free. Hard to see how anybody could support something like that. Why wouldn't we deport someone who's been credibly accused of murder?
Well, right, exactly. He should be once he's tried and convicted. But the problem here is that ICE did not issue a warrant for this individual. What they did was they issued a detainer. And ICE in Colorado, they issued, per their statement, they issue between 35,000 and 40,000 detainers a day. They say they don't have the time to go through the paperwork to fill out the additional request that is involved with a warrant. And because they did not do that, this individual was allowed to be released from custody. That's the problem.
Okay,
and that makes the case, in a
but
sense, for having immigration priorities.
Oh, okay. So I guess if someone's accused of homicide, that would put him right at the top of the priority list. And
Absolutely.
Yet ideologues like the people in charge in Denver are basically saying his rights are more important than those of American citizens who live in Denver, who are going to be exposed to this guy when he walks out of jail after posting $25,000 bail.
No, I think
so where are their rights? Who's looking out for their rights?
I think our Constitution is looking out for their rights. And the fact is, all people, including the undocumented, do have certain rights under our Constitution. The reason that the law enforcement authorities in Denver did not detain this individual because there are court rulings in the Supreme Court and the lower courts, most specifically, I think recently, the Mendoza case that says these local jurisdictions will be at risk of liability for double jeopardy
You know
if
what?
they
That's
hold
not.
someone
That's
for a
not.
second
Look,
time.
so let me
So
just
that's
say.
why they
So
only
are you actually
honor
hold on.
warrants? They do not honor detainers.
You know, that's very. It's as we both know, and I just want our audience to know that what you're saying is disingenuous. It has nothing to do with their fealty to Supreme Court decisions. Those are a joke to the left, as you know. Are you actually arguing that the federal government has no right to take someone into custody when they know for a fact that he is breaking federal immigration law? He's not supposed to be here. He's an illegal alien, and they don't have a right to detain him? Is that what you're saying?
The federal government has the right to take people into custody, provided they follow the proper procedure prescribed by the statute. And the statute, in this instance, requires that they fill out the forms for a warrant, which should be either issued by a judge or a criminal warrant, which can be sworn out. They did not do that. They only issued the detainer, and that's why he was released.
Yeah. This has been, you're wrong, let me just say that. This has been going on for a long time in precisely the way that I described has now been thwarted by politically ambitious politicians who want votes, as you know. But let me just step 3 steps back and ask you.
But this policy is actually based on court rulings, not ideology of politicians. It's based on court rulings that these local law enforcement officials are following because they don't want the financial liability.
Does it bother you that a guy credibly accused of homicide is going to walk out when he shouldn't have been here in the first place?
Sure.
Okay.
But
I
also trust that local law enforcement, that they are following the processes prescribed by law. In this case, the Denver police, and they do not want to face lawsuits from these different individuals.
Okay, so how about doing the right thing?
So if advocacy groups, and most importantly, they don't want to be sued by other authorities for not complying with federal law.
So let me say this. Why wouldn't the Denver Sheriff's Department call ICE and say, by the way, he's getting out now, he's walking out the front door, grab him, which they're allowed to do?
They are allowed to do that, but they do not do it because ICE did not issue a warrant.
They don't need to. Hold on, ICE does not. Slow down. That's not true. No, there's no difference. ICE does not need a warrant to pick that guy up off the street. Sorry, you're wrong. So why
No,
wouldn't
Tucker,
the Denver...
We're talking about two separate different things. You are
But
correct.
why-
ICE
but
does
hold
not
on.
need a warrant to pick someone
I know
else.
I'm
They
correct.
do not.
I know I'm correct. So
Right,
that's
but
why I'm
ICE
asking you a very
does
simple
need the warrant
question.
when they're getting the local law enforcement
If you
to hold
really
someone
cared-
beyond the prescribed term.
Okay.
In this case,
If you
that's the exact
let
circumstances.
me just ask one last question, and then I'll
Sure.
let you go. If you really cared about the safety of American citizens in Denver, which the left is demonstrably doesn't care about, but let's say you just did for the sake of argument. Let's say you were continuing to pretend you cared. Why
Thank
wouldn't you, if you're the Denver Sheriff's Office, the second, call them and say, you know, this guy's leaving at this hour, be waiting for him? Why wouldn't they do that? What's the answer? They're not going to get sued for that.
Because as ICE itself has said, they are issuing on a daily basis, a weekly basis, between 35 and 40,000 of these
No,
detainers.
I'm not
These
talking about
local law
35. I'm
enforcement,
talking
they do
about this
not have
guy,
the resources
the
to
guy
do
charged
so.
with homicide. Why wouldn't they do it in this specific case? Will
Because
Denver do that? Why wouldn't they?
The reason they did not was because, again, ICE did not make him a priority by failing to get the warrant for it. Because they did not get the
They don't
warrant,
need a warrant.
the local law enforcement
They
did not
don't
take
need
it
a
seriously.
warrant to
They do, the local law
now you're
enforcement
being
does need a warrant
disingenuous.
in
No,
order
no.
to hold him.
You know what they need?
That's based on the Mendoza case and
They need
multiple
to-
local legal
I just
rulings.
explained how they could do it. They're not doing it because they don't care. That's the truth, and you know it. Raul, thank you.